I hope you enjoyed your break, your 1 week break from the podcast. My name is Krona. I am internally known to the WPI folks now as the spreadsheet eating Louis lover, and I'm joined today by the ever lovely DRF.
Hello, hello. Yes, it is IDRF. Not the imaginary number from that one iCarly episode. So yeah, it's very exciting to be back on the podcast once again. It's been a few weeks since I've been here, but there's both a lot and also not as much to cover today.
Yes, it is very odd to be so close to the end of season 4 at this moment. We're recording this Thursday, and all the division grand finals matches should be finished by this upcoming Sunday. So very odd to think we're at the end of season 4 already. Probably with a little bit more gray hairs on my head, but it is what it is. We have a lovely episode for you all tonight. Just giving a little bit of an overlap, we have some really quick CCA announcements, some stuff we've already covered in the past, and some newer stuff that are coming out here in the soon future. We're then going to jump into discussing some of the important and pivotal playoff matches. And that being said, we have actually 2 rounds of playoff matches to discuss, both playoff quarterfinals and playoff semifinals. So there's a lot to dig in. A lot of exciting developments have already happened for each division. We then have the lovely chance to be joined by HT and Ember from UGA Red, where we're going to discuss their upcoming Division 6 Grand Finals match. I'm very looking forward to picking their brains about it. And then finally, we're going to end tonight by discussing the Grand Finals matches. As well, 4 of them have been fully decided. We'll know one of them tonight, and then we'll know the rest tomorrow. So
pretty much.
A lot of exciting stuff going on. So without further ado, let's increase the counter and just get started. So starting with some quick CCA announcements, let's just throw a friendly reminder about the CCA Cookbook. So Frosty has created this lovely cookbook for the purposes of specifically for the purposes of tailgating the season 4 Grand Finals matches. You can find recipes for 18 different dishes and 7 unique 21 plus beverages in here. If you happen to actually make anything from this book, feel free to tag our Twitter account or put it in our Discord. We love to see people sharing recipes and food here in the CCA. We'd love to build a little bit more of a community here. So you can find this cookbook in the announcements thread, which I will grab here shortly. And have fun cooking, everyone.
And if anyone makes those Mountain Dew pancakes, let me know, because those seem like the most atrocious thing, and I need somebody to try them that's not me. Well, so we'll get the cookbook here linked in a second, but for anyone else or as well to kind of keep going through some of the announcements here. For end of season projects as well, the all division teams are back. We will have an announcement on that soon. So be on the lookout for that. We will be accepting nominations probably across all of next week and determining those all division teams. So if you don't know what the all division teams are, if you're new around here and maybe didn't see it last season, the all division teams is basically 4 players from each division are recognized by the staff, the production, and your fellow players as the top of the top within the division. Whether it's for stats related or just overall performance, we want to recognize the best players that really delivered in every single division. So it's a really fun way to add a little bit of extra recognition, make it more like real sports where we have like awards and stuff on the line. So be on the lookout for that. It's a really, really fun project that we'd like to do every season, and we promise this time it will not take as long. So
yes, so I believe Frosty is planning on having this released tonight, with the deadline being the deadline for submissions being next Friday. Also being released tonight is the form for our new iteration of the map of the CCA. One thing I have not been shy about is my interest in talking about the relationships between collegiate teams and programs that are built here within the CCA. And the map of the CCA project looks to visually represent all those interesting relationships through this lovely graphic. We did one previously with some of the previously collected SOX 2023 data. However, since a lot of time has passed and a lot of new teams have arisen and new complications and new screen partners and such, we wanted to take this time to repull our team population and to try to find a more accurate representation of all these relationships. So this will be releasing tonight alongside the All-Division team. For those of you who are captains for your teams, please go look in the captain's chat later tonight for the input form. If you don't have access to the captain's chat, please make sure you go get the role in the role request channel. So we really appreciate anything you have to say on the matter, and I'm looking forward to making lovely visualizations of all this.
Yep. And our last announcement is that every single podcast, barring episode 0, that was kind of our experimentation one, has now been uploaded to YouTube. So you can go ahead and check those out in the official CCA podcast playlist. So be sure to look out for those if you're curious about all the different topics that we went through, analyzing every single stage of this season. It is definitely a really, interesting binge, especially if to go back and maybe see how wrong Krona and I were on a couple of things, and how we were anticipating one thing, but something else happened, or maybe how right we were. But anyways, definitely worth a listen. So if you're interested in that, those are available now.
Yes, indeed. I actually went back and listened to a lot of the more recent ones, recently, and it's really interesting to see what a lot of those teams have to say. Because fun fact for all of you who have not been following this as closely as I have, is that we've actually interviewed, most of the teams we interviewed had made it to here in playoffs. So a lot of this information they've discussed has still been relevant. In fact, we actually have interviewed one team in the grand finals match for the division, that being, I believe it was episode 2 with the Splatlanders. So, if you are interested and want to go see kind of their developments and all this discussion around them, feel free to go back to that playlist and check it out.
Definitely recommend.
Indeed, yes. So that's it for our quick CCA announcements. Very painless this week, not too much to cover. So that means let's jump into discussing these playoff brackets so far. So let me pull up Division 6. I believe this is it. Right? Yep, we're good. Whew. So, discussion with last time we left off with Division 6. We basically just discussed the bracket and those quarterfinal matches. Since then, 6 matches have been played, and obviously we have our teams decided for grand finals and the third place match as well. Starting at round 1, you can see buy one get one free, sweeping over VCU, UGA Red winning over U of A Axon Spiders 5-1, Grisco Gators also winning over the Table Terp Troop 5-1, and with Splatoon Gold winning 5-3 over CHUD. God.
Cal State Dominguez Hills. We'll go with the full name.
Cal State teams, I swear to God.
There's like 30 of them, like 30 Cal States or something like that. Not 30 teams, that'd be awesome, but
yes. These quarterfinals matches actually being somewhat pretty competitive, with many of them kind of going a little bit deeper into the set, specifically that the Splatoon Gold and CSUDH Ivory set going to game 8. With that being said, semifinals was a little bit more of a clean sweep for both these teams, with UGA Red winning 5-0 over buy one get one free, and Grisco winners also sweeping over Splatoon Gold. So that means both of those teams will then appear in Division Grand Finals. So throwing it to you, DRF, what strikes your interest here?
Yeah. So, especially with Division 6, it's one of those divisions that's really interesting because most of the time it's just teams and players that have no experience. And coming in, it's just like, well, you didn't put really any info. You're like, oh, like this is your first time in competitive Splatoon. Oh, you're like A rank. Sure, Div 6. So it's really one of the most unpredictable divisions. And I think, as we kind of started to get to know some of these teams, we really started to, see some groups really blossom. Like Splatoon Gold, for example, is one of the few teams that has experience that was in Division 6. And they've really found themselves this season. And I'm so excited they had a really exciting set against Dominguez Hills, taking that one 5-3. Of course, Grisco Gators sweeping them right out of the semifinals. But that third place matchup that's coming up should be pretty exciting. And I mean, finals as well, but we'll get back to those. But just wanted to give, Splatoon Gold the flowers that they deserve. Very, very fun and exciting matchup there. But it's been really interesting to see how score-wise one-sided the playoffs have been, when the regular season there was actually a really good mix of very close matches and sweeps.
Yeah, I also think one thing to mention is that Division 6 is home to a lot of schools' second and third teams. Right off the top of my head here, you have University of Houston, VCU, UGA,
Grisco
University of Florida.
Gators. Yep.
You have a lot of these teams that, while they're new to competitive, while they're new to, playing as in a competitive environments, learning, these sets and such, they have a lot of these resources from these players and divisions above them, to both coach them and let them learn. So, like you said, it leads to this very unpredictable kind of arms race here, with kind of to see how these teams can develop further and further. So it's really exciting to see such a chaotic and unpredictable final. I know a lot of the previous podcast episodes I've been talking about buy one get one free and their absolute kind of dominant run they had in their group, but UGA Red just showed up and completely stopped them there in that semifinals. So it's anyone's game here in Division 6, and I'm all here to watch it unfold.
Absolutely. Well, we'll kind of loop back to, what we're anticipating with the finals in a little bit, but let's hop on over to Division 5 and start to break down what we have going on there. So with Division 5, we are still waiting on one more semifinals match to be played. That will be the High Riders versus UNM Splatoon. That match will be going on, I believe, at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, if I have that correct. We don't know if that's going to be streamed or not. We weren't even sure if this match was going to happen. Just to be completely honest. So they managed to figure it out. They'll be the last semifinals to get situated. But taking a look at a couple of these matches here, most notably High Riders going 5-0, Bull Sharks also go 5-0, but end up losing in the semifinals 3-5 to Champlain Splatoon Cerulean. So just because you're sweeping your way out of quarterfinals, that doesn't necessarily mean anything for your semifinals matchup. So it will be interesting to see if UNM is going to be able to give High Riders a run for their money in the semifinals. So definitely, looking out for them there. The High Riders have really been the dominant force within this whole division. I think they've dropped they've only dropped one set, right? And that was because of a forfeit. They have not dropped any other games otherwise.
Yes, they are the team that every team, they're the team that UNM Splatoon and Champlain should really have their eyes on here. Champlain especially, because they're from the same group, that being Group 1 there in Division 5, with Champlain being swept previously in the season by High Riders. So, this very much has been a High Rider-centric narrative. But like you said, anything can still happen here in semis. Bull Sharks were very much this strong team coming in, sweeping Clark Coy, and such, but they kind of they struggled against Champlain there and ultimately took the loss. So anything is still very much possible.
It is. But it would be interesting if High Riders ends up making it out of the semifinals, because that would mean that we get a rematch from, I believe, Group 1. And I guess that really, if you're in Group 1, you're probably going to pat yourself on the back like, you know what? We did pretty good. We went up against the two best teams in our division. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the storyline that unfolds here.
Yeah, I could very much see that happening with how chaotic Group 1 was in the regular season as well, with multiple circles of suck forming, and really the only kind of key, what's the word I'm looking for, decisive team to really come out of that was High Riders. Champlain was able to as well, but they definitely struggled a little bit more than them. But still, very exciting things to see here in Division 5. Let's actually move on to Division 4. Division 4, we have some interesting developments here. First thing, you had some teams from very established programs being defeated here in this first round. That being both the Purdue teams and PSU. Unfortunately for Purdue with Stu and Bash, while they could have faced each other in grands, both of them got eliminated by Splatlanders and Cephalopod's Granite, which is very ironic when we look at their own kind of developments here. But before we get to that, let's actually talk about Vespa Enter Sandman versus Goomies. Kind of as we discussed the previous episode, this was very much a high storyline match, with Vespa Enter Sandman actually featuring a lot of previously VCU players. This match was streamed, I believe, like 2 weeks ago or something like that, where Goomies was able to put on this dominant performance against Vespa. So it's fantastic to see the Virginia players keeping it very competitive and to see very interesting things happening there as well.
Yeah, that was an in-state matchup.
Yes, it was. Unfortunately for Goomies, they got swept by Splatlanders, which now places them into the third place match. So DRF, what is actually interesting about that second semifinals match?
Yeah, so I mean, with UCSD Esports Navy and Seminole Cephalopod Garnet, we literally saw that on stream. That just concluded less than an hour before the podcast kicked off here. So this one is very, very fresh. The Seminoles came in, and UCSD seemed like the team that should be favored coming into this one, having dropped, I believe, 1 or 2 games the whole regular season, and just sweeping their way through PSU, Nittany Lionfish as well. So they had a big target on them, and I think that given that this was Navy's biggest game in their history, they have never quite been at this stage so far. Neither of the Seminoles either, but it just seemed like the Seminoles were able to find their groove a little bit more. It was actually pretty fascinating to watch because UCSD was, looking pretty dominant in game 1, game 2. The Seminoles gave them a really good run in that Splat Zones, Barnacle, and Dime game, but UCSD came out of nowhere with 2 points remaining and managed to steal the zone and flip that one back in their favor. So UCSD was really still fighting their way through those first 2 sets, but finally the Seminoles had an answer, and it really seemed to be Alex that was on that Octobrush, utilizing that Zipcaster to create the biggest distractions possible, and it worked so well, buying their team opportunity after opportunity to get in some quick picks and get the pushes that they wanted. So a very, very fascinating set all around. Would definitely recommend. It was probably one of the better semifinals matches that we have seen this season.
Indeed. The Octobrush with Respawn Punisher, you love to see.
Yep.
But even kind of looking at the larger storyline for this playoffs bracket, these top 4 teams have seen just tremendous growth from this previous season. And there's such fascinating things that kind of speak about their programs and the teams and the players there. So, while Goomies and USCSD now find themselves in that third place match, that is nothing to scoff at with such a stacked division this season. So, TRF, would you like to take us through Division 3?
Absolutely. Let's bring it on over Division 3 here. And this has been the playoffs to watch so far. Division 3 has just been so exciting from start to finish, to where we are, I should say. Where we had 3 quarterfinal matches finish in game 8. And they were just so close, so back and forth throughout the entire set for all of them. So it was just so cool for the ones that we were able to get on stream to just really see how teams were kind of working things out in these extended sets, because we play best of 7s all through the regular season. We go to the playoffs and it's like, hey, now we got to stretch this a little bit more. So Death Roll and Creamed Corn as well. What was seemingly a very fascinating set as well. With we talked with Creamed Corn and we talked with both teams basically going into it. So it was very interesting that we got that opportunity. And to kind of just see, hey, who is going to win this one? Because now, at least us on the podcast, we have a vested interest in both of these teams from those previous conversations. But Death Roll went in favored and came out on top. So, going into those semifinals as well, though, GMU Patriots versus Titans of Alterna, that was on stream, and that set was wild. It was just all over the place. The Titans, I believe, went up 2-0 and then 3-1 before GMU started working their way back in the set. And it was just such an interesting match, all ending on tower control ship shape that really came down to the wire. Both teams were just flinging bodies at that tower to try to get it across the line. And GMU ultimately came out on top in what was an absolute thriller. This was my number one semifinal set. I know we talked about earlier how the other UCSD versus Florida State was, really up there, but this was the best semifinal set in my opinion.
I don't think you can top the absolute absurdity of Titans of Alterna getting 4 Powerball clams in overtime on the
yes
clam. Hey, oh my god. Titans have always had such amazing BS clam pushes. They had one in their previous game too. On what was it, Clamblitz Mako, and it's always fantastic to see Lagoon and the other Titans member just cook there. An absolute thrilling set. And one thing I do want to also highlight the other set you mentioned, that being Death Roll and Creamed Corn, because Creamed Corn, I believe, found themselves in a 0-2 deficit there at the start, but they had some very impressive middle games there. Believe, what was it? I think it was Explo, Undercover, Kraken Roller, and a T-Tech on Humpback Zones, absolutely dominating Death Roll. It was very impressive for Creamed Corn, being a very newer program here, the only new Division 3 playoff team here, actually. So to take Death Roll to a Game 8, to have these dominant matches, speaks volumes about them and what we'll see from them in the future.
Absolutely. Well, Krona, take us through our next division, Division 2.
Oh, I love Division 2's bracket. It is so spicy. There's so many great teams here. And they always love to keep it interesting. So, fun fact with the first round of playoffs is that all teams from Group 1 and 3 have been completely eliminated. With Vermilion Tides having been swept by Coastal Squid Surf, and H-Town Rebels, the undominant force that they were in the regular season, losing in a Game 9 against Nightfall. That was one of the earliest playoff matches played this season, and my god, it was a thrilling match to watch. With a tied score, Nightfall was able to stall the zones on Manta Maria for a good 10 seconds in order to stop H-Town from capping and getting the lead in overtime to make it to that Game 9. So some really impressive work from Nightfall, and even though they do go out to Carne Exatas the next week, this is nothing to scoff at, and they should hold their heads up high here. Another one of the interesting quarterfinal matches here was Carne Exata Rise in Springfield, Ohio, because you've had these really two established programs, these well-known teams within the division, with only one kind of having to make it out here. Carne has faltered a little bit with the complexities of Group 2, and they really needed this win to able to establish themselves as one of the central powerhouses here in the division. That's exactly what they do, winning 5-1, and then repeating that same result in semifinals to make it to the grand finals. So some very impressive stuff here in the top half of the bracket. With the bottom half of the bracket, we see California State Long Beach unfortunately not able to keep their great record up and end up falling to IVC Diamond Rays 5-3. IVC Diamond Rays have very much been a team we've been discussing since their result last season. A team that's grinded through the summer, a team that has put in the work. and having this great victory over Cal State Long Beach Gold is nothing to scoff at. Unfortunately, they were at the ends of Coastal Squid Surf there in the semifinals, having lost 5-1. Coastal Squid Surf continues to not be stalled by any of these teams here in Division Two, only losing literally 3 games this entire season. Um, 3 or 4, I believe it's 3, but regardless, they now find themselves back in a grand finals match against Carne Exotifries. So some wonderful bracket developments here. Anything I missed here, DRF?
I think you kind of covered it all. We went into this one basically, or just this overall division, and we kind of looked at this and we said, I think that with some differing opinions for sure, but I think the general consensus was that our top 3 were going to be Coastal Squid Surf, Springfield, Ohio, and Carne Exotifries. So the minute that we saw that the quarterfinals matchup was going to be Carne Exotifries versus Springfield, Ohio, we all instantly were like, oh shoot, this is gonna be fireworks. It ended up being one of the more lopsided sets, actually. I think Carne Exotifries just really have found their groove at the right time. In classic Carne Exotifries fashion, they find a way to throw a set in the regular season, but are able to really come to their full form in the playoffs. And that's really what we've seen. And I think this is an even better team than what we saw last time.
It's funny to think that that entire matchup was because of the unpredictability with Cal State Long Beach Gold and how they just kind of not they didn't steamroll their division, their group. They definitely struggled, but they were able to clutch those game 7s repeatedly.
Yes.
And forced Springfield, Ohio to that 2nd seed, which caused that. Once again, Division 2, you're so interesting to watch. It's fantastic. We could not ask for a better bracket and better storylines this entire season. That being said, let's go over to Division 1, where only 2 matches have been played so far.
Absolutely. And we'll explain a little bit more of that in a second here. But so with Division 1, since things are a little bit different at our top division, where there are 2 groups of 6 teams, we said, hey, let's take top 3 since we have the extra week scheduled anyways. So that's what we did. And UCSD Esports, the number 2 seed in Group 1, goes down to Red Embers, the number 3 seed, the team that snuck in with a 2-3 record, now find themselves in the top 4 of the CCA Division 1 playoffs. And that was kind of a place that we had initially anticipated for them. They just took a very untraditional route to get there. I don't think this will ever truly be duplicated, the run that Red Embers has had, where they kind of showed up, they set themselves up to be, these new possible giants in Division 1, and the kind of faltering through the regular season, stumbled their way into the Division 1 playoffs with a record that, again, I don't think we'll see that type of performance again, but it's still impressive nonetheless that they've found a win condition and they met exactly what they needed to. So that's all to their credit, that they were able to kind of piece that together. And now they're going to get a rematch against PSU Blue, which I think is not exactly what they were hoping for, but it's the matchup that they will definitely take, because they would rather, have this semifinals opportunity against PSU Blue than not be there at all. On the flip side of that, Banana Split, the number 2 seed in Group 2, taking on the number 3 seed from Group 1, VCU Ink Black. They're going to win that one 5-2. These 2 teams did play each other in the same group last season, where Banana Split, I believe, won their regular season matchup 4-1. So VCU Ink Black definitely continuing to make some good progress here, but Banana Split, they had some close ones this season, now find themselves again in the top 4 looking to defend their title, but this time the route's going to be a little bit more challenging as they face frontrunners MSU Aries in the first round of what will be our playoff extravaganza coming up.
Yes, that Red Embers and UCSD Esports Gold match was the first match of the entire playoffs for Season 4 to be played that Monday night, and man, what an electrifying set that was. 2 very powerful, 2 very practiced teams going at it. You could not ask for a better result there. And another fun fact was, I believe the Banana Split in Ink Black was the earliest recorded match I have on record for being played, with that taking place at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So,
Whoa.
not the Division 5 semifinals match from last season that was played at, I think, 6 a.m. or something.
6 a.m.
But
Eastern.
Still, yes, yes. But still, impressive that these collegiate players can get out of bed in time, and have the will to still compete, and such.
How many of them you think
Yes.
had 8 a.m.s?
Oh yeah. But kind of is in a similar way from Division 2. This playoff bracket very much kind of distills the essence of what has made Division 1 so interesting to watch this season. The complexities that Ink Black has brought in, the uncertainties with Red Embers, and the dominance that PSU and MSU have brought. You could not ask for a more interesting and developing playoff bracket here. And it's going to be exciting to watch it all unfolds this weekend. So, yes, that is it for our discussions of the previous playoff weeks. There's still one more week left and a few more matches to talk about. But before we do that, we want to invite HT and Ember from UGA Red onto the stage such that we can interview them on their win against Buy One Get One Free and their upcoming Grand Finals match against Grisco Gators.
Let's try to get them in, and then Krona, when you get a chance, we'll go ahead and swap off the screen share.
Yes, we will. Got one. There you are. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Fantastic. So with me here is HG and Ember from UGA Red. And for those of you who are unaware of UGA Red, UGA Red hails from the University of Georgia, and is a newer name this season with some familiar faces from past University of Georgia teams. To give you a brief context for those of you who are unaware with University of Georgia's program, University of Georgia has competed here in the CCA since Season 2. They've been here for a year now and have seen a lot of developments. They previously played under the name of Updogs in Division 5 during Season 2, and then UGA Black in Division 7 for Season 3. Now here in Division 4, they have two teams competing, with UGA Black in Division 4 and UGA Red, the team we're talking to today, here in Division 6. So UGA Red has had quite an impressive run this season so far. In the regular season, they played their toughest matches first with 2 4-1 victories over Sun God Squad in the Table Turf Troupe in weeks 1 and 2. They then swept through the rest of the teams in Division 6 Group 2, which placed them in first place within the group, which moved them on to the playoff bracket. As for their playoff run so far, UGA Red has started in the quarterfinals by winning 5-1 over U of A Axion Splatters, and they then swept arguably the division favorite, that being University of Houston's Buy One Get One Free, in semifinals this past week. Now UGA Red are set to play against University of Florida's Grisco Gators for the Division 6 championship title this Sunday at 9:30 p.m. EST. So welcome, UGA Red.
Thank you for having us.
It's exciting. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to talk to the Division 6 team, and it's very exciting to talk to one right before the Grand Finals match. So, with any introduction I do, I always feel that I'm bound to miss or misrepresent something. So, what did I miss? Could you tell us a little bit about yourselves and about UGA Red?
Yeah, so I'm HT, How Theory Carmela, 10 billion names. I'm the captain for UGA Red. We're UGA's second Splatoon team, thanks to some growth in our program this year. I think we more than doubled the amount of people. We run through an esports club, and we more than doubled the number of people, I think, with the Splatoon role in the server. So
Wow.
That's honestly been great. I think most of our players, aside from me and our pro player Crunchy, are freshmen, actually.
Ooh. So a young program.
Yeah. Ember?
I'm Ember. I'm a freshman to this college. I honestly didn't expect to get in, but now I'm on the Splatoon team. Cool.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so I mean, you guys talked a bit about your program, so let's dive into that first a little bit. So your program for UGA in general has been here since season 2. And there's been, like you said, it seems like there's been quite a lot of growth just within the teams and just your overall program. So could you guys just talk a little bit about, I guess, your own journeys with University of Georgia's competitive Splatoon program?
Yeah, so I guess I can start since I've been here since like the dawn of time for Splatoon's program at UGA. So that season 2 was literally the season that competitive Splatoon formed at UGA Esports. Like before that, I think it was nothing was going on. We had 3 people. I think it was me, Crunchy, and then Dee Deadly, I think he's in chat, were the 3 people who showed up to a meeting and were like, hey, competitive Splatoon. And the esports president is like, if you can find the people for it, go for it. They're like super supportive about that stuff. Anything as long as there's an audience, they fully support you to go for it. So we got our 4th and then 5th shortly after, and it sort of grew from there. And so that's been pretty nice. The growth has been super nice to see, just like getting to almost build it from the ground up.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, and I think you had touched on my next question there, because HT, I was gonna say, because you've been around since the start of the program. So like, I guess when you first were there, like, how did you initially see this like growing, if at all? Were you kind of just like, oh, this will be fun, or was there, was this what you anticipated, like where you guys are at now?
It's hard to say. Like, so originally Crunchy was our like community coordinator for it, I think, for that first season, but then he had a travel abroad and it got passed down to Candy, who's currently, I think, the captain for UGA Black and for me. And we kind of split that role into Candy like taking control of the competitive side of things. I was put in charge of like building community. So it's interesting to see that growth, like almost how do I put that? Just one-to-one, like seeing that double and like getting to meet all of the new players this year. They've been fantastic. I was not expecting us to get this far, but like with the help of our new players, like Ember for sure is cracked. And I think that's part of the reason why we got this far for sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, Luxton in chat saying Ember carries.
I'm not that good, I swear.
Well, hey, you're certainly doing something right, having made it all the way here to grand finals. But before we get into that specifically, I want to touch a little bit more on your team's kind of general Splatoon kind of competitiveness. Because a fun fact for those of you who are in the audience, both of UGA's teams are participating in this past CCA season and the Ludi season as well, in Division 10. This makes them the part of a small collective of 8 teams to participate in both the Ludi and CCA seasons in parallel. Additionally, University of Georgia is one of 2 teams that had both their teams do such. So my question for you about this is, could you just talk a little bit more about your experience playing this last Ludi season, and did you have any trouble with balancing commitments to both these leagues here?
So that's the funny thing. That scheduling was surprisingly the easiest part. I think that's due in part to Sam, our sub. He is a godsend for these sort of things. But the funniest thing is bouncing between CCA and Ludi and going from like sweeping in CCA to being swept in Ludi. I think we played Titans of Alterna in one of ours and they handed it to us. Absolutely.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. Ludi is just especially because Ludi a lot of times just doesn't know how to approach collegiate teams. So like that's why we always say that there's never a proper correlation between CCA divisions and Ludi divisions, because it's like you're gonna face just people all over the board. Like you'll face teams that
For
really
sure.
shouldn't be there, and you'll also face teams that are just like, how is there not a Div 12? Like,
Yeah.
I still think, well, I mean, even with such experience, was there anything you were able to take away from kind of balancing both these leagues for the betterment of UGA Red?
I think it helped us get in a lot of early practice because, like, we as a team had never played before, so we didn't really know what we were doing in the beginning. And playing more matches in the beginning between CCA and Ludi, I think, helped us iron out and decide like what works for us. Finding the strive of okay, this is what works for how we play. This is what doesn't.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned this before, but it's great to kind of have that such that one league can give you that practice, but you can focus on the other here. And talking kind of about running these things in parallel. You are a CCA team that has started to look to other outside external tournaments and such for practice for competition. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, going forward, will we see UGA Red participate in more tournaments that are like external from the CCA?
That's a question I think for my players. I'm kind of just here to facilitate and get them organized into tournaments. Whether they want to or not is completely up to them. I don't think we've talked about it yet.
I'm hoping for it.
It'll be fun.
There you go. There's already one vote for yes.
Well,
Still, go ahead, DR. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say we'll see you in from the Ink Up or whatever other popular among the CCA teams.
Yeah.
See, apologies, Conan. Did you have another thought on that?
No, you're good.
Okay.
We can move on.
All right, all good. So, so my next question is kind of just talking about we're going to look at the season as a whole here. So from initial registration, it seemed like UGA Red was a team that was coming into this with not really a whole lot of experience other than, for yourself, HT. So, what experience did you all come into this with, kind of being the second team for UGA?
I mean, I had the CCA and Ludi experience, but I think that is the only like competitive experience for anything ever I've had. I can't speak for everyone. I know Luxatone, one of our players, runs competitive Mario Kart. I do not know if the skills transfer. Two very different games, but I think at least being in some sort of competitive experience in general might help. I don't know. Ember, have you done anything competitive?
Not gonna lie, my only experience is S+.
That's so fair.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Especially for like a lot of people, their first time, it's like, yeah, grind to S+. And then, once you step your foot into the private battles, you're like, oh, this is a little bit different. So, that's why I was kind of curious, because I was like, this team's doing really, really well. I was like, there's no way you guys just like came into this with no experience.
They let us cook.
They let you cook.
I think building a little bit off of the question DRF had here was kind of my interest, what your relationship with your other team is, UGA Black. Do you find yourself like often communicating and interacting with them, or are you two kind of more separate teams here?
Oh, absolutely. So like how it's set up in esports, like our actual esports program is just we have a whole sort of section dedicated to Splatoon, and it's not as cleanly divided there. So honestly, a lot of times it's somebody will just throw up like, hey, I'll be on for the new season, or hey, I'm grinding Salmon Run, and anyone's free to join. So it's been like pretty good communication between the teams. I think we're pretty like in contact with one another. I know that. I know there's a lot of posting going on in Splatoon General, or Spoon General, I think it has been labeled as.
Classic.
It's good to hear that second teams still kind of have that relationship with their first teams, and that you're not two separate entities. You're one collective, one group of players playing together.
For sure.
Just happen to be on separate teams for a logistical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on specifically to season four, you dominated Division 6 Group 2, only losing a single game to Sun God Squad and Table Terp Troop. The name always mixes me up. At the start of the season, did you expect to sweep through your group and finish the regular season 5-0 in matches and 20-2 in games?
Absolutely not.
I have no idea how I got here.
We just woke up one day and we're in finals now, apparently.
I love that.
Well, you know, it's always good to be pleasantly surprised sometimes.
For sure.
My next question, it talks a little bit more about your seasonal structure as a whole. Your regular season was somewhat front-loaded, with what turned out to be your toughest opponents being your Week 1 and your Week 2 match, respectively. So how did you keep yourself mentally and mechanically ready for playoffs throughout the back half of this season?
I think the biggest thing, at least because we're collegiate level, is keeping it fun. Like knowing that we are focused on trying to keep it fun first. I think Ember can agree. We try not to get too bogged down by like, oh, this is really strong in the meta right now. This is like crazy. Like we're running what? Tri-stringer, Carbon Deco, and like Pro. Something that you would not see in a meta pick right now. So focusing on that fun, I think, allows us to be relaxed enough and have enough fun to not get too shaken up and worried about a match to the point where we can't play.
Gotcha. So I will tack on kind of a bonus question here. So at what point, I guess, did you all realize that the position that you're in now, entering grand finals, was feasible?
Maybe last week. I don't know if it's earlier for Ember.
Sometime after the end of semifinals.
Yeah.
At the end of semifinals. All right, I can respect that. Well, okay, so as mentioned,
playing Ludi and CCA at the same time left me confused at how we were actually doing, and then I was told, "Oh, hey, we're making playoffs." So that's the statement.
Okay, you know what? That's fair. We'll go with that. So as mentioned earlier, you faced the UGA Axion Splatters in the quarterfinals and buy one get one free in the semifinals. So UGA Axion Splatters was the first team to take a game off of you since week 2. Kind of talk us through. And I think, that was the first game of the set too. So kind of talk us through that a little bit, because you guys were riding a hot streak coming into the playoffs, and then game 1, it's like, oh shoot, losing is a real possibility here after dropping the first game. So what were your thoughts going into that?
It was definitely a surprise, but I don't think we let it shake us. Like, it felt like a super close match. I can't quite remember, but I think it was down to like a last failed push. So, like, having that built confidence of going in mostly undefeated, I think allowed us to not be too worried going forward. I think we just looked and we were like, okay, we went wrong with this. Let's just keep going. I don't know, Ember, if there's any panic going on.
If I remember correctly, we looked at the map modes and were like, wait, we do really well on this next one. And then it was just like that for a while.
It always goes back to the map list.
Yep.
Well, hey, you lost that one game, but you went on to win the next 10, both winning the set against U of A Axion Splatters, but also your next match against buy one get one free. And a lot of the narrative for Division 6, or at least some of the narrative we have been kind of talking about, has been buy one get one free in their own run. And having only lost 2 games early in the season, a lot of people had them not only making it into playoffs, but also making and potentially winning the division. So I kind of wanted to kind of pick apart your match with them, and by first kind of asking, like, could you walk us through kind of your thoughts leading up to this pivotal match and how you approached the counterplay for this team?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'm realizing it's a running theme of none of us knowing what we're doing until we're in it. Because I think leading up to that match, I think competitive was at the back of all of our minds. We had a bunch of us had exams that were swamped. I had like 6 exams in 3 weeks or something like that. So going into there and having, I think the most challenge that we've had so far was a lot of fun for sure. Like what they changed it up on us, which is I think the most fun that the league has been so far. Like going into Barnacle and Dime zones and they pull out double wiper as a comp. It makes you pause for a second. You don't wake up and go, oh yeah, competitive Splatoon. I'm going to play against double wiper. And it was a fun time. They were so great to play. They might have given Ember a hard time, which is a rarity, I think, so far for us in the league.
Not gonna lie, Carbon Deco versus Splat Roller might be one of the best matchups in the entire game for both players. Always awesome to fight.
Fight to the death.
Let's see. So with kind of the narrative following buy one get one free, did it come as a surprise to just absolutely sweep through them here in the division semifinals?
It comes back to that we weren't expecting anything sort of mentality. Like, at least for me, I try not to set expectations. Either we go in and we win or we go in and we lose. We don't know until we end. It feels very good to have won it, but I don't know if it can be a surprise. Not because we thought they were bad or because we expected it to be rough, but just because none of us had any expectations. We woke up, we played, and we won, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that.
Now, with UGA Red, there's been a lot of growth. Whether you guys expected it or not, this team has really established themselves as one of the fastest, risers, especially within Division 6. So what is the ceiling for this team right now? What division do you think you can contend with now that you're in the top 2 of Division 6?
That is a good question. I think it would be fun to be put in the same div as UGA Black at some point, just for like the mirror match, play against your friends as foes. But where we go from here is largely up to how confident I think our players are. Do you have any sort of ideas, Ember? Do you have any hopes?
We could try scrimming against UGA Black and seeing if we're equal.
This is true.
Have you guys not scrimmed each other in a while, or because I know a lot of teams that have multiple teams that you in houses sometimes.
We played the beginning of the season.
I think. Oh yeah, we did the one scrim. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. As long as we don't have to face Titans of Alterna anytime soon, I think we should be good.
Hey, that was 9 weeks ago. There's certainly been a lot of growth on your team since then too. So, if you have the chance, definitely hit them up and, just ask for some friendlies and such.
For sure.
But moving on to what lies ahead, with your win against Buy One Get One Free, all that remains now is your grand finals match against Grizzco Gators. So I think the main question on my mind for y'all is, how have you been preparing for this match? And are there any areas of focus you've been looking to improve in preparation for this team?
So I think this might have been the match that we've talked about the most so far. We've been trying to get ideas, try to really solidify our usual strategy, but also keeping in mind the unique ways that Grizzco Gators probably are going to challenge us. But I think it's been good. I don't know if there's anything specific that you want to add, Ember.
These people run a Tenebrella legitimately, and I am terrified of that.
That's the unique stopping power that we might have to go up against, and I'm excited to see it go.
For sure. So now let's talk about the hypothetical. So if you were to beat the Grizzco Gators, I know that in of itself it's a Georgia-Florida showdown, which in sports there's
classic.
Always there's always a classic thing there. But what would being Division 6 champions mean to you all, your team, and the University of Georgia Splatoon program?
So I think that'd be huge. I think it'd be so great just for this new team to bring everyone together. And I also think it would be huge for Splatoon and our esports thing because we're so new in it that it feels kind of like we're still getting established. And I think getting a win under our belt, no matter what team it is a win for all of us, basically. Like, getting that win feels like it would sort of be like, oh, we're a capital E sport, we're not just like, oh yeah, there's 4 people, they're playing the Nintendo game about squids.
Yep, I feel you there. I feel you there for sure.
Yeah.
I think even regardless of the outcome here, you've made such tremendous growth here this season. Both you and your sister team. That while you might lose this upcoming match, the growth and the trend line you've established for yourself, only like the sky's the limit at this point. So, kind of touching upon that too, season 4 is basically almost over at this point, with like 4 or 5 more days of matches left. And that has this hiatus between season 4 and season 5 is starting to pop up on a lot of the minds of the players. And I wanted to ask, what are UGA Red's plans for the hiatus between season 4 and season 5? Will you try to stay as a competitive force, practice, play in tournaments, or are you going to try to take a step back and let things put it on the back burner?
The tournaments part comes down to the interest of the players. It could happen, it could not happen, we don't know. But I know regardless, we'll end up playing. Like, going back to kind of how it works with esports, I know there's still going to be playing over the break. It may not be competitive, but it's definitely, people are going to get on. They're going to be like, hey, I feel like playing ranked for 7 hours straight now that I have the time to. Does anyone feel like playing this? And I think that'll be really good. Maybe not proper practice, but it's still good to at least keep it in mind and just stay on top of it. Don't get too break. I'm bad with words right now, but
Keep the engines warm and have some fun while at it, right?
Yeah. Keeping the fun going. It might be interesting to see how the interactions between the two teams go now that we're not both bogged down by seasons, to see how members from each team play together, because I think there are some really insane combinations of players from both teams that have a potential to be stronger, honestly even stronger than we were.
I think actually that raises a good point. Being that UGA actually has 2 teams, do you think that the rosters currently will see just them replicated for season 5, or do you think that you'll see some switches between these 2 teams?
That's a good question. I've had to talk with the competitive coordinator since that's kind of his thing, but I think it would be awesome to see. Genuinely, like, it could be really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. And now with some experience under everyone's belt and some like practice with the game, there's, I said it earlier, but the sky's the limit here with the combinations of your players and such.
For sure.
So, a very interesting spot to be for University of Georgia's Splatoon program, and we're really excited to see the future growth you have here in the CCA and in competitive Splatoon.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
Wrapping up this interview here, is there anything you would like to plug?
So I don't have any ongoing social media, so I'm doing my duty as a librarian to say, instead of plugging social media, I'm going to plug your local library. Look up the Facebook for your local library right now and see what they have going on. There's probably something cool. That's about it for me. Ember, do you have anything?
I do not have any socials.
All good. In a way, it's probably for the best. Twitter is a dumpster fire every other day, especially in the Splatoon world. But yes, check out your local library. I will endorse that.
Reading books is very cool. You heard it here.
Read a book about a squid. Maybe it'll help. I don't know.
I know it's very difficult for college students to read, especially their assignments. But libraries are more than that.
Not me having a bookshelf of books just unread these last 2 years.
It happens
right now.
Well, thank you both so much for taking some time to chat with us. We greatly appreciate it, and we wish you the absolute best of luck in your finals matchup. I believe do you guys have that scheduled already?
Yeah, it should be Sunday at 9:30 p.m. EST.
Awesome. So yes, we will get a stream on for that. So folks, be sure to tune into that to see the epic conclusion of this Georgia-Florida matchup. It should be a fun one. Thank you again, HT and Ember, for joining us today. And we'll hopefully hear from you all again soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Let's see. And that was HT and Ember from UGA Red. So, Krona, I mean, that was a really fun interview. Really exciting to see what Georgia's kind of had cooking. Just whoa, did we lose the podcast? Oh no! Oh, bear with us, folks.
We love podcast stuff.
Classic. Anyways.
It happened between segments. Like, had that happened in the middle of the interview, my god.
Yeah, we were in a good spot at least, so.
Okay. Yes, it was fantastic to hear from HT and Ember from University of Georgia. You know, UGA is a name that has been here in the CCA for this last year, and I don't think many teams are kind of aware of their stories and storylines growth. So again, having the opportunity just to sit down, chat with them, talk about their growth, talk about this upcoming match is a wonderful chance to have.
For sure. Well, we have one more segment, and we'll keep this one probably a little bit quicker because we kind of did the bulk of the work in the initial segment of today's podcast episode. But we are going to start talking about grand finals and third place matches now that almost every single semifinals match has been played. So let's go ahead and dive on into the brackets once more. And we're going to start off with Division 6. Krona, take it away.
Oh man, it's not like you've been hyping up UGA Red versus Grisco Gators for this entire episode already. Yes, these two teams are fighting off here in Division 6, each having a very dominant semifinals round, and a very good performance in the group overall. What's interesting here for me to see is that these are teams from very pre-established and present collegiate programs here in the CCA, with UGA Red being from the aforementioned University of Georgia, and Grisco Gators being one of University of Florida's new teams. So, as I mentioned in the previous segment, you see these secondary teams from these established programs that do have these resources to their higher level players or their higher division players and such. So it's very interesting to see, these teams grow and to learn the game and to compete here in these lower divisions.
Certainly. And one thing that I think we'll try to do here is, I want to kind of get some initial predictions down of what we think is going to be happening in each of these division finals and even maybe the third place matches. I think with this one, after talking with UGA Red, it's a little bit hard for at least me personally to try to bet against them here. I think this is probably going to be a pretty close matchup. Again, Division 6 is a very volatile division, but I think we will see an epic finale here between UGA Red and the Grisco Gators. I think that we'll see UGA Red come out on top in an 8-game epic showdown, 5-3.
Yes, I was honestly thinking that exact same thing myself. Grisco Gators had a very dominant semifinals match, but I do think that UGA Red, with some of the weapon picks and with some of the things that they're bringing into this match, will give them a little bit of trouble. Very much, we could be very much wrong, as is the nature with speculation. But I think regardless of the outcome, this is going to be an electrifying grand finals match.
Certainly. And that third place matchup, buy one, get one free versus Splatoon Gold. While Splatoon Gold has already won my heart for this season, I am going to give the edge here to buy one, get one free. I think this one should definitely be more skewed into their favor. Give me buy one, get one free, taking this one home 5-1.
I would say 5-2, honestly. I think Splatoon Gold has shown tremendous growth here in this last year and this season especially. So while I do think that buy one get one free will probably edge have the edge over them here, I do think that Splatoon Gold will be able to put on a show here, and go not go down without a fight.
Certainly, they've experienced so much growth. Had one of the most interesting 3-season arcs in my opinion, and it would be a cherry on top for this squad to be able to clinch this third place matchup. So definitely don't sleep on Splatoon Gold. Even though we're here giving the edge to buy one get one free, definitely still should be a fun one to watch out for.
And with that, let's actually move on to Division 5. And what the weird thing here is that we still have a semifinals game to play. That is right. Champlain Splatoon Cerulean sits in the grand finals match, waiting for the winner of the High Riders. The High Rollers got out previous round. You'd end Splatoon. Ugh. Yes. So obviously we can't immediately do much speculation because of that match. But I do think any of these matchup pairings will lead to some fantastic results. As aforementioned in our previous segments, High Riders and Champagne Splatoon Cerulean come from the same group, that being Division 5 Group 1. So they do have that match history, having High Riders swept Champagne Splatoon Cerulean, I believe it was either week 2 or 3. It's escaping me specifically, but that would be an absolute wonderful grand finals match to have. Some history for these new teams here too. And even if that doesn't come for fast and UNM Splatoon wins, UNM Splatoon has had a fascinating season here too. Being, I believe they were Group 2. 1 second, hang on, I'm trying to remember. Group 3. Yes, that's right. They played the Bull Sharks. And I think that was a game 7 too. Like they're not a team to scoff at here, having beaten the previously undefeated Crimson Inc. too. So I could see the semifinal going either way, and I think that whoever awaits Champlain's Splatoon Cerulean in grand finals will definitely give them a run for their money. So with that, DRF, I want to ask you, who do you think will make it to grand finals, and who do you think of those two teams will make it? Will win this division?
I'm gonna make this real simple. Give me the High Riders winning 10 of their next 11 games. Like, the High Riders have been just so strong all season long. Their biggest enemy in this division so far has been themselves. Like, they have forfeited one set. That is the only reason that they have, a little blemish on their record right now. It's because they just could not get a match scheduled. And praying that there's no complications with that against Champlain, should they get there. But my bet is High Riders are riding this out. They'll have a near perfect season. Of course, they have the one set loss, but they really haven't lost a game at this point. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think Champlain will find a way to learn from their previous experience with the High Riders. I think that's what's going to give them, a better chance than what we saw in the regular season. But the High Riders, they've just been so strong. So give me the High Riders riding this out all the way through, in playing their 2 sets in the span of 4 days.
Yes. I do think that High Riders will win against UNM Splatoon, not only because that's the trend line, but also because that forces the first place match and the third place matches to be regular season rematches. Bull Sharks, UNM Splatoon having that game 7. I forget which week specifically, but it happened, I'm pretty sure. So you have these very interesting matchups for these debut CCA teams. As for that grand finals match, I think it's hard to bet against the High Riders here with their track record so far. But I would not discount Champlain Splatoon Cerulean just yet. They're gonna have to fight tooth and nail here, but I could see it possibly happening. It's been a while since their matchup, so they've had a lot of time to prepare, and they're definitely not the same team they were, weeks back. So
yeah, and let me plug here real quick as well, because we could very easily see a a season 2 division 4 scenario. And for those of you that haven't been around for that long, let me paint the picture for you here. VCU Inc. Black, brand new team to the CCA. They complete the perfect regular season, beating everybody, just what seemed to be was going to be the perfect run. Playoffs, still perfect. Reached the finals, playing Kraken Squids, who they had swept in the regular season, and proceed to lose in 9 games. Those were the only 4 games that VCU Inc. Black lost. Sorry, only 5 games that VCU Inc. Black lost all season. And we're here in Division 5 of Season 4. History very well could repeat itself. So Champlain, while I think has an uphill battle ahead of them, history actually kind of is on their side here a little bit. And it's like, this has been done before. You could be perfect. We've had, I think, every perfect team with the exception of Rowan University last season in Division 7 that's been perfect going into finals has ended up losing. So now the question is, do you count High Riders as being perfect or not? I don't know. So because they haven't truly lost a game. So there's a lot of just kind of interesting dynamics to consider here. But for Champlain, you've got to kind of look at that. If they didn't know that already, they do now. And they should definitely be like, hey, even though a possible High Riders rematch is coming, you have the advantage of having played this team. Nobody else has played this team before. So you have that advantage now of, hey, we've played them. We know what to expect. How do we adjust?
Well, I do think the High Rollers would have had to play at least 6 other teams to get this far in the league, but I do understand the sentiment that you were saying here, DRF.
Yes.
Regardless, it's going to be a very interesting, Division 5 kind of finish here. And it's actually kind of interesting because we'll get into this a little bit later. There's been actually quite a lot of parallels with this fall season, that being Season 4, to the previous season, to the previous fall seasons of Season 2. And like you said here, we might have a situation just like that. But regardless, let's actually move on to Division 4. Where's my mouse? Here is my mouse. Here we have, recently decided the Splatlanders versus Cephalopod's Granite in the first place match with UCSD Esports Navy, my apologies, versus the VCU Goomies in the third. I did a little bit. So Splatlanders and Cephalopods have been around for quite some time at this point. And they actually both played in Division 4 last season in Season 3, with having records of 2-4 and 1-4 respectfully. So to go from being middle of the pack in Season 3 to now being in the same division's grand finals match is quite an achievement for both these teams and speaks volume to the players that are on these teams. I think for either of these teams, this is going to be a monumental win, as it kind of will shape their Splatoon program and the way these players kind of approach it. This is very much a capstone for all of the progress they've made over these last couple seasons. And with UCSD Esports Navy versus the Goomies, you actually again have a rematch from previous in the season. Both teams being from Division 4 Group 3, with esports, with UCSD Esports Navy having won 4-1 over the Goomies. That being said, a lot has changed since then. The Goomies have grinded and have fought some tougher opponents and have some more wins under their belt here. So it's still very much anyone's game here. As for kind of predicting some of these scores, I'm going to say that I think Splatlanders are going to win the grand finals. That being said, I think it's going to take them to Game 8 here. I think some Cephalopods will give them a run for their money, but Splatlanders will fight tooth and nail to succeed at the end. What about you, DRF?
I think you stole my prediction. I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I really like the look of Splatlanders this season. They've just been a whole new monster that has kind of come out since Fishy departed, and I think that they're kind of just carrying his legacy here, and they are out to kind of prove something. They have someone that they're playing for here. So I really do like the look of Splatlanders coming into this one. Give me Splatlanders winning this one in 8 as well. Seminole Cephalopods looked fantastic today in that semifinals matchup against UCSD Esports Navy. I think we're gonna see a kind of a similar story where Splatlanders, they're gonna probably get out to a quick start, but the Seminoles have shown that they just need to buy some time in the set. The longer the set runs, the better the Seminoles are going to get. So the Splatlanders will have to do everything in their power to try to keep this set short, because the Seminoles have really done well to make adjustments mid-set and try to start to expose the weaknesses of their opponent. So shorter set, good for Splatlanders. Longer set, I think that's going to be good for the Seminoles. But even though I'm going to still predict this one, 8 games for Splatlanders.
And do I even need to ask your prediction for the third place?
You do not, but from what I've been told, it sounds like UCSD and Goomies have continuously scrimmed this season. So Goomies kind of has been learning off of UCSD, so now they're going to face each other. Goomies has learned a lot. So I think the set is going to be a lot closer than the regular season set was, but still give me UCSD. I'm going to say UCSD a 9 here. UCSD is going to be taking the extra mile, but they're going to squeeze it out as kind of the top dog from their group.
Game 9 here for a third place match. I do think Esports Navy will ultimately get the win here. I don't think it's going to take them to 9 though. I think we'll see they come off to a good start and Goomies challenge them in that middle bit. But I think that there's going to come a point here that they will turn the tides in, win the remainder matches of the set to finish on Game 7 against the Goomies. So
for sure.
Very interesting stuff here. DRF, would you like to talk about Division 3?
We'll keep Division 3 short because we have some other interests here as well. But yes, Division 3, GMU Patriots will be taking on the WPI Grisco Workers Union. Grisco Workers Union are the last squad standing that are looking to repeat as division champions. So other than Banana Split, but we kind of already, we'll have that discussion in a minute here. But Grisco Workers Union were the Division 3 champions in Season 2, looking to bring it back after falling short in Division 2 last season. I'm not necessarily going to give predictions here just because, just out of respect for both yourself, Krona, and your opponents, GMU Patriots. But I will say that, Grisco Workers Union has had quite the season, and the GMU Patriots have really had to scrap their way to get to this position. So, I think I will tie this to the last division and basically say the longer the set goes, the more I'm going to be worried for WPI. I think that's going to be the story here. So should be a really, really fun one. That one is also already scheduled for Sunday. Is that correct, Krona?
Yes, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. I'll try to keep my comments here brief, obviously, because I very much have invested interest. But I do think this match is kind of says a lot for both these teams. Like you said, GMU's kind of had to scrape by for these playoff matches, winning Game 8, winning Game 9 against Titans. That being said, they have won both of these times and came out of their group as a top seed. So, while they might take a bit longer, it might need to find their footing in set. I think like you said, this is going to be a very, very close set. Additionally, while WPI has been here before and has won it, fun fact, only 2 of the people on their roster were actually participating in that grand finals match from the previous season 2. It's very much this roster with combined with some experience and some newer players as well. So I wouldn't immediately kind of I would try to still temper some expectations here, and I do think it's gonna be an electrifying finish. And I'm also very excited for this third place match.
Yes.
Death Roll and Titans are teams that I have personally scrimmed quite a lot this season. And my God, both these teams have so much to offer. You have the absolute powerhouse of Nitro, Ambrosia, and Aster from Death Roll coming up against Lagoon and his devilish Inkbrush there. Both falling short here in the semifinals match, but with very much nothing to scoff at. I honestly don't think I can make an accurate prediction here, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say here, DRF.
I am a big fan of both of these teams. The Titans of Alterna, they are my local school. So geography wise, and I've had friends and family that have gone to that school as well. So so I really want to root for the Titans of Alterna here. I think that Death Roll also just I've become big fans of them as well. Like you said, with Nitro and Ambrosia, everybody that they have to offer. I think here it's just going to be a little bit too much. Like it's a 3-headed monster over there. So Death Roll is going to get the edge for me. Give me Death Roll 5-3. I think Titans will put up a good fight, but Death Roll will eventually find a way to run away with it.
Yes, I think that sounds reasonable. I do think that Titans will show their clam dominance though, and
yes,
and games as they've shown throughout this entire playoff bracket so far. So interesting stuff coming here from Division 3. Moving on to Division 2, we have so a lot of this story so far has been centered around the central figure of Coastal Squid Surf, a name that we've kind of repeatedly hyped up here on the podcast since honestly episode 0. This being one of the second place Riptide finisher that came out of seemingly nowhere. And they're coming to face here against Krona and DRF. DRF, I'm going to give you a quick pop quiz. What do both of these teams have in common from the previous season?
They were both runner-ups, I believe. Is that true?
Yes, they were. Krona and DRF were the Division 2 runner-up, falling to Old Bay Brigade. I do not remember the score. Sorry.
5-1.
5-1. Okay, thank you. And Coastal Squid Surfers were the runner-up against Life Could Bradley Dream. I believe in a longer set too. So you both had these runner-up teams who have had the taste of grand finals matches before and are hungry to kind of get their revenge in a grand place match. Additionally, they're coming from these two very unique backgrounds. Krona and DRF have been a forever Division 2 team. They played Division 2 in Season 2, Season 3, and now in Season 4. And their story is that they've always been improving. Season 2, they went 2-3, just missing out on playoffs. Season 3, like I previously mentioned, they were able to win against what do they play in semis? That was Cal Squids. They won against Cal Squids, I believe. Group 2 Division 2 always gives me headaches.
I was saying Division 2 is just a headache.
Yes. They were able to win to get to that second place slot last season. So it's very much kind of like a now or never moment for them, right? At worst you tie, but what you really want to do is you want to improve from your place from last season and win this division. Finally, kind of ending your Division 2 run and trying to move on to bigger things. For Coastal Squid Surf, you have this absolute story of this, Division 5 team putting in this work, getting some players and grinding their way to get here. And very much kind of the stats here kind of support them, having them only drop 3 games in comparison to, I believe like Krona has dropped like 10 or so games at this point. I don't remember completely off the top of my head. But, you have a team that's very much more struggled to get here, and Coastal Squid Surf, who's kind of seamlessly kind of, they've definitely struggled and such, but, they have definitely kind of shown that they can clutch these games and sweep these sets. So I think this is going to be an absolute amazing match to watch. Saturday at 6:30 p.m. EST, I believe. And I would talk about the third place match, but that has already been played. The only match of its kind, IVC Diamond Rays winning 5 over Nightfall. Fantastic win for IVC, previously the Division 4 champion. They definitely ran into some struggle here in Division 2. but were able to make a good playoff run and to have a very nice overall finish. So DRF, here's the big question: who is coming out on top here?
It sucks too, because like you said, both of these teams are previous runner-ups, and one of these teams is going to once again, kind of follow the saying of always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and that it just stings to be that team. I've been there, done that. So with that said, though, I just don't see how you can deny the run that Coastal Squid Surf has had. They were a borderline Division 1 team. Like, I think they were like this close to being put into Division 1. And Carne Asada Fries, even though they've just been so consistent over time and just have the very steady growth arc, I think that there's just no denying the front-loaded talent that Coastal Squid Surf has. And in this case, I'm going to give them the edge here. I think that Carne Asada Fries makes it interesting early on. Coastal Squid Surf sails through the back end here, takes this one 5-2.
That's exactly my prediction too. Yeah, I do think that once Coastal Squid Surf gets momentum here, that's you're going to see a lot of these games quickly wrap up. Looking at some of their previous matches, you see that like once things get rolling, knockouts just keep coming and coming and coming. That being said, Carne has had such an impressive training arc since the start of the summer. They took second place Booyah Bowl too, and have very much shown here again that they are a Division 2 powerhouse. I believe they are going to be the team to push Coastal Squid Surf the hardest here. But
for sure.
Think that once Coastal Squid Surf gets their footing, they'll start to see the games roll in their favor. So.
Absolutely. And, nothing against San Diego State here, because, especially, me going to UCSD, we have a great relationship with the San Diego State squad. So nothing against them at all. But, at least coming into this, Coastal Squid Surf was the top dog. They still are the top dog. They're going to be favorites coming into this finals as well.
Yeah. So, very exciting things to talk for Division 2. Again, always one of my favorite brackets to cover. But with that, let's move on to the top division, sorry. That being Division 1, DRF. Can you give us a walkthrough?
Oh boy. So, let's talk about that briefly. So, all 4 matches, I guess we'll say, because this is going to include a third place match. So both semifinals, finals, and third place will be played tomorrow night, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, in a big playoff extravaganza. If you were not around last season, it was a really, really fun production. We saw PSU Blue, Banana Split, Night Trucks, and UCSD Esports Gold all go head-to-head in back-to-back-to-back matches, where we crowned Banana Split, the newcomers to the CCA at the time, as Division 1 champions. They are now here trying to run it back to reclaim the Division 1 title against MSU Aries. This is probably the worst matchup that Banana Split could have drawn here, but it's like, what can you do about it? Because they came into this as the number 2 seed. They're going to have to face, either PSU Blue or MSU Aries, but they had already played PSU Blue earlier in the season, gave PSU Blue the only loss that they've experienced so far this season. So who's to say they can't, do the same to MSU Aries? So will be a very interesting matchup that we will see there. But that will be the second semifinals matchup. The first semifinals matchup that will be played tomorrow will be PSU Blue versus Red Embers. PSU Blue sweeping their way through their regular season set 4-0, as Red Embers coming in with a couple of big names, including Corona Beer, who's had a lot of competitive experience. Should be a very fun matchup at least. While I don't see Red Embers changing their fate this time around, I do think that, again, there's a benefit to having to play the same team again, because the first time is a learning experience, and now you get an opportunity to apply that. So how do you deal with Kraken? How do you deal with Vapor? How do you deal with Snow? How do you deal with Jay? Is Nitro going to show up? We don't know. And I don't even know if Penn State knows if Nitro's going to show up yet. So you have to be ready for everything and every single player. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Red Embers makes those adjustments and how they kind of take this one game at a time, because that's really all you can do if you're in their position.
Indeed. You know, I think this entire Division 1 season has been leading up to what presumably will be this grand final match, that being, you know, MSU Aries and PSU Blue, who've just had such dominant seasons, not showing any falter or any faltering in the slightest. You know, unfortunately for, you know, UCSD, Banana Split, and Red Embers, you know, that semifinals match is going to be really tough. But like you said, Red Embers is definitely in that better position, having already faced against PSU Blue. You know, before you even get to discussing kind of the scores for grand finals, what do you think these semifinals scores are going to be, DRF?
I'll give both teams benefit of doubt. I think they could each take a game. I just think MSU and PSU are just way too stacked. We're gonna get a good old Big Ten showdown in the finals. You know, MSU, PSU will both win their respective sets 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, again, PSU has been of those two teams, PSU is the only one to have an actual game legitimately taken off of them from that Banana Split. With MSU Aries game, the game that MSU Aries did drop was that DC against Ink Black week 3 or something like that. But regardless, I do think that, you know, despite these, you know, seeming cracks in these masks and stuff, I do think, you know, you're very much right in that you'll see a PSU Blue versus MSU Aries grand finals match. That being said, do you want to talk about that one first or the third place here, DRF?
Well, let's touch on the third place matchup real quick, because I really do think Banana Split versus Red Embers would make for a very, very exciting third place matchup. You have a lot of heavy hitters here. Like, can Banana Split still finish podium, or is Red Embers, who really came into this as what I'm going to say is probably the number... I think internally for me, they came into this as the number 3 or number 4 overall seed. So I kind of expected Red Embers to be here. Again, very untraditional path that Red Embers took to get here. But I think Banana Split has just kind of shown exactly why they are the best, you know, one of the best teams in the CCA in general. You know, while the offseason left room to be desired, I think that once they get into the league and once they kind of get their competitive mindset right, they are kind of just one of the teams to beat. So while I would love to get this third place match streamed, you know, assuming that that's what happens, I do think it will be a I'm going to reluctantly say Banana Split in 9. I think it's actually going to be that close. It's really hard. I honestly am struggling to pick one or the other, but I'm going to commit to Banana Split in 9.
See, I'll take the devil's advocate here. I'll take Red Embers. You know, Banana Split, it's a fantastic team. I know Noel and Banana Abby have been grinding and such. But you have seen kind of some of them falter in some of their earlier sets in the season. While they definitely have picked up the slack since then, you know, I do think that, you know, Red Embers being a little bit more unpredictable for them, being a newer team around the block and kind of having, you know, some of these, you know, showy matches against UCSD, Gold Esports and such are going to push them, you know. And I would be forsaken if I did not root for my namesake here, that being Krona Beer, as well. So I think it's also going to be a very close set. I'm going to give it to Red Embers in 8.
Fair enough. So will be very exciting again. I really wish that if this is the third place match that happens, I so wish we can stream it, but unfortunately there are finals that will be happening at the same exact time, and at least according to our predictions and what I think almost everybody has predicted, an MSU versus PSU showdown is what is anticipated. Again, stranger things have happened, so you know, never count out anybody until the score says otherwise. But MSU versus PSU has kind of been this very slow train collision that we have been anticipating since September. And these have been the two teams that have always been at the top of, staff boards and seeding, and that's what it's going to continue to be. Now, who's going to win out on this one? I genuinely don't know. Ask me again tomorrow during the stream. I'll give you probably a better answer then. But I have always been, even though I have my TZS teammates on PSU, I think PSU's story is going to be, where's Nitro? Is Nitro going to play? Is Nitro not going to play? And is Nitro rusty or not? There's a lot of interesting dynamics just within PSU. MSU has had a very consistent roster, and we know exactly what 4 players are going to show up. We don't know the answer to that for PSU Blue. So it will be really, really interesting to see. So not going to give a prediction yet. Ask me again tomorrow on stream. But it will definitely be, I think, minimum 8 games.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the PSU Blue and Red Embers semifinal actually first in the stream order for tomorrow?
Correct. We will see PSU Blue versus Red Embers first, MSU versus Banana Split second, and then grand finals after that.
So that means if our projections are correct, PSU Blue will have about an hour to wait then for MSU Aries. Do you think that this kind of hour of waiting is going to affect them or their play in any way here, DRF?
Well, again, I'll play devil's advocate with you as well. How is MSU Aries going to do in let's just assume the worst case scenario. If it goes to 9 games on both sets, that you're literally playing low ink in the span of 2 hours. That's 18 games that they could possibly be playing. So now the question is, are we going to see PSU have to struggle through getting cold, or are we going to see MSU struggle with fatigue? So both are really interesting dynamics as well, because you never really want to be in either position where you're going to get iced or at the same time, like, 18 games, possibility of 18 games in a row is a lot. So MSU, their goal against Banana Split is to get that set done and over with so that they can give themselves a quick breather, and then we'll start up grand finals after that. So it's a lot of interesting dynamics to consider, because those are both things that you'll hear time and time again from Splatoon analysts that are like, hey, here are the key things of, like, here's why teams end up losing. And both of those are, big reasons, fatigue and waiting.
Yeah, so again, while we don't have Banana Split and Red Embers getting there, like, they can still very much shape how that grand final match goes just by how long it takes for them to play that semifinal set. So, I'm gonna follow your camp and not give an accurate position, because honestly, I could see this going either ways too. But I definitely think that, if you're any person who has any interest in Collegiate Splatoon or competitive Splatoon in general, you want to be tuning in tomorrow night for this epic Division 1 playoffs stream.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and just plug that again real quick. So yes, be sure to tune in starting tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the CCA Twitch channel. It is going to be a production unlike anything you have ever seen before from the CCA, let alone Splatoon. We have pulled out all the stops for this event, and it is going to be so much fun. Like I said, so we have a lot of expectations production-wise coming into this one. So trust me, you're gonna want to watch, and we will spam ping if we need to get you into that stream. Not actually, but definitely we'll be sending out a couple pings for sure.
Yeah, I know for my own program, we are trying to get a watch party together to all go in person just to watch this epic conclusion to this season. So if that interests you and your team, I highly recommend connecting and doing that, because it's so fun to watch it and to just watch Collegiate Splatoon in general. So
definitely.
For the 3rd episode in a row here, DRF, we are crossing and making a new record for here in the podcast.
Oh man.
Just wait till next episode. But let's wait, hang on one second. I would not do that. stop sharing my screen. Let's begin to wrap it up here. So, as we've mentioned time and time again here, tomorrow night is the Division 1 playoff stream starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Watch PSU versus Red Embers, followed by MSU Aries versus Banana Split, followed by the Division 1 Grand Finals match. Again, this is something you do not want to miss. Anything else you want to say on that topic here, DRF?
No, just tune in.
Definitely. So across the other 2 days, that being Saturday and Sunday, you'll see a few streams pop up for the other grand finals. 2 of those matches still need to be scheduled, if I remember correctly, that being Division 5 and Division 4. For Division 2, that will be taking place Saturday night at 7 p.m. EST, that being the aforementioned Carnegie Standard Fries versus Coastal Squid Surf. Then for Divisions 3 with GMU Patriots versus WPI Grisco Workers, and Division 6 UGA Red versus Grisco Gators. Both of those matches are playing at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, and we are working on trying to get streams to support both of those matches at the current moment. And like I said, we will know the times of the other remaining matches and get streams available such that all grand finals matches can be streamed. As for the podcast, I have unfortunate news that we will be taking another break week next week. That is because we want our next episode to be very special. That episode being what we've called the Season 4 Retrospective. DRF, myself, and another mystery CCA staff guest will be diving into all the intricacies and all the storylines that have occupied this 2-month-long venture of the season. We have a lot of ideas of how to keep things interesting for segments, and we're very excited to have this episode with you. That is currently planned to take place at December 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, and please look out for announcements for us probably middle of next week at some point to officially confirm things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be a great episode and a great way to end our Season 4 discussions.
Absolutely.
So, DRF, where can everyone find you?
Oh, man. I don't think you and I anticipated the episode running this long, but we have made it. You can go and find me on Twitter at DRF_Splatoon and on Twitch at TritonDRF. But per usual, you can find me right here on the CCA Discord, I guess, running all things Collegiate Splatoon.
Yes. You can find me at comrade_Corona on Twitter, and then somewhere at 9 p.m. Eastern here on Sunday for my own match. But we'll see how things go. Thank you all for joining us for this episode. We hope it was very informative and you learned quite a lot and are excited for the coming Grand Finals weekend. So without further ado, good night, everyone.
Good night.